Welcome to the final chapter of the series. If you haven't watched the first part yet, be sure to check it out. The link is in the description below and in the I button above. Now let's pick up where we left off. At the nursing home, Bill and Nicole made a heartfelt decision. Since they were already suffering from a terminal illness, they chose not to accompany the group to the TV broadcasting station. Instead, they decided to spend their last night together, embracing their final moments rather than chasing a cure they wouldn't live to use. Breaking away from the others, the couple wandered through the silent city, reminiscing about the past. Bill, wanting one last taste of normalcy, smashed the glass of a bakery window, and the two stepped inside. Under the warm glow of candlelight, they shared a meal, just like they used to before the world changed. Afterward, they explored the empty streets, visiting places that once held meaning. Eventually, they arrived at an abandoned movie theater, one final stop on their journey. Knowing this would be the last film they'd ever watch, they took a moment to express their gratitude to each other, cherishing the time they had spent together. As the credits rolled, they held each other close, embracing the peace of the moment. Slowly, sleep overtook them, and in each other's arms, they drifted into eternal rest. Meanwhile, Sam, who had been injected with Lex's sleep serum, was finally able to rest for the first time in 4 days. As he drifted into sleep, his mind was filled with memories of his past. He relived the moment when he lost his father, watching helplessly as he died in his sleep. Sam had been the only survivor in his entire family, and now those painful memories resurfaced in his dreams. As he slept, he started moving restlessly, haunted by nightmares. Seeing this, Lex reassured Jake and Allie, explaining that since the serum prevents deep sleep, Sam would experience nightmares, but was in no real danger. By now, Jake had started to trust Lex. Watching Sam stay alive despite sleeping convinced him that the serum actually worked. It was their first real hope in this crisis. Meanwhile, Ellis and his team finally reached the TV broadcasting station, the very place where the global disaster had started. They were determined to find the truth about the virus and the mysterious deaths. Just as they were about to enter, a powerful spotlight suddenly illuminated them from outside, and a voice echoed through the speakers, warning them not to come in. The voice claimed that they had advanced weapons and would kill anyone who tried to step inside. Ellis paused for a moment. He recognized the voice. It belonged to Alonzo, a well-known news anchor he had often seen on TV. Realizing that Alonzo was likely bluffing and had no real weapons, Ellis called his bluff. He boldly declared that they were not turning back. They had come to uncover the truth. After a moment of silence, the lights inside the building switched off. Then the doors slowly opened, allowing them to enter. After Sam successfully woke up from his 1-hour sleep, Jake and Dr. Allie were also given the serum, as they had been awake for the past 4 days. Just like Sam, Jake started having nightmares the moment he fell asleep. In his dreams, he relived his regrets about his younger sister Megan. She had always wanted her big brother to be there for her, to play with her, and protect her. But instead, Jake had been lost in his addiction, never by her side, even in her final moments. Meanwhile, Dr. Allie dreamed of a world where everyone around her was dying, helpless to stop it. As soon as the 1-hour limit was up, Lex woke both of them. She then explained that they were working on extending the serum's effects so that people could sleep for longer periods without the risk of dying. If their experiments were successful, people would soon be able to sleep for many more hours at a time. Lex then showed them pictures of the people they had experimented on to develop the serum. She also mentioned that if they wanted to perfect the formula, they would need more test subjects. Hearing all this, Jake and Sam felt hopeful. For the first time, it seemed like things might actually return to normal. Jake made a life-changing decision. When the world was finally safe again, he would quit drugs. He realized that he couldn't change the past, but he could do better in the future. Since he wasn't able to be there for his sister Megan, he vowed to treat Sam like his own younger brother and protect him no matter what. Lex then introduced Jake, Sam, and Dr. Allie to the head of the hospital, Dr. Abraham. According to Lex, Dr. Abraham was a genius, the mastermind behind the serum. Without him, they would have never developed a way to help people sleep safely. Lex believed that if anyone could save the world, it was Dr. Abraham. Now meeting them for the first time, Dr. Abraham told Jake and Sam that he would need their help for his mission. However, he didn't explain exactly what they would have to do. Instead, he left them in the dark and went away on his own. Away from the others, Dr. Abraham ordered his guards to go to another town and capture survivors at gunpoint. He needed more test subjects for his further experiments. It was at this moment that the truth about Dr. Abraham was revealed. He wasn't just trying to save lives, he was sacrificing them. With the help of his armed guards, he had been kidnapping innocent survivors and conducting dangerous, often deadly experiments on them. This was how he had managed to create the serum, by using people as test subjects and killing hundreds in the process. Now he needed even more survivors to extend the serum's effects further. However, Jake, Sam, and Dr. Ali had no idea about this dark secret. Across the city, two men, Clay and his partner, were preparing to launch an attack on the hospital. Their families had been kidnapped by Dr. Abraham's guards and taken there for experiments, and now they wanted revenge. Clay had also captured a nurse who was searching for more survivors under Dr. Abraham's orders. By interrogating her, he learned how many guards and doctors were inside the hospital, giving him the advantage he needed to plan his attack and kill everyone responsible. Meanwhile, Jake and Dr. Ali sat together, unaware of the danger brewing outside. As they rested, they wondered if Ellis had reached his destination and whether he had found a cure. They also made a decision. Once Dr. Abraham perfected the serum, they would take it to Ellis and to the survivors in Julio's town. They wanted to help all the remaining awake survivors and give them a chance to live. On the other hand, Sam had started bonding with Lex, trusting her completely. Seeing his potential, Lex told him he could be of great help to their research. Curious and eager to contribute, Sam agreed to meet Dr. Abraham, who was still focused on improving his serum. Sam was impressed by the doctor, believing that he was truly working to save the world. During their conversation, Dr. Abraham made an unusual request. Since Sam was so young, his brain could provide important insights that might help make the serum even better. Already admiring Dr. Abraham, Sam quickly agreed to let the doctor conduct tests on him, completely unaware of the horrifying experiments that had already been performed on others before him. While searching for Sam, Jake wandered to the backside of the hospital, where guards blocked the entrance, preventing anyone from going further. As he stood there, something caught his attention: masks. They were the same masks worn by Julio's group from the previous town. Something felt wrong. The masks were here, but none of the survivors from Julio's town were. This meant something terrible had happened. Meanwhile, Dr. Ali also made a disturbing realization. The images Lex had shown her, the people they claimed had helped develop the serum, were actually test subjects. It was impossible for anyone to survive those experiments because the process involved cutting into their brains. Suspicious, Ali confronted Lex, demanding to know if anyone had ever truly survived their experiments. Before Lex could answer, Jake rushed in, looking shaken. He revealed what he had just seen, the masks of Julio's group inside the hospital, but none of the survivors were there. In that moment, everything became clear. Dr. Abraham's guards had raided Julio's town, capturing everyone at gunpoint and bringing them here as test subjects. The reason they hadn't seen any of them alive? Because no one survived the experiments. The horrifying truth hit them all at once. Julio and his entire group, the people who had helped them, were already dead. And now Dr. Abraham had chosen Sam for testing as well. That meant he was about to undergo the same deadly procedure, and if they didn't act fast, Sam wouldn't survive either. Realizing the terrible truth, Jake sprinted through the hospital, desperate to find Sam before it was too late. Just as Dr. Abraham was about to begin the operation, Jake burst into the room furious. He demanded that the doctor let Sam go, shouting that he knew everything about his twisted experiments. Hearing this, Sam panicked and tried to escape, but Dr. Abraham grabbed him forcefully, refusing to let him go. The doctor coldly justified his actions, claiming that children's brains were more valuable for his research and that Sam was necessary to perfect the serum. He argued that since people were already dying, sacrificing a few more would ultimately save the rest of humanity and prevent human extinction. But Jake and Dr. Ali refused to accept that logic. Yes, the serum was an incredible discovery, but no one had the right to decide who should live and who should die. The hundreds of people already sacrificed would never return, no matter how many lives the serum might save in the future. Determined to stop this madness, Jake and Ali decided to leave the hospital forever, taking Sam with them. Before leaving, Dr. Ali turned to Lex, her voice filled with disappointment. She admitted that she never imagined the person she loved could be capable of such cruelty. With that, she ended their relationship for good. Just then, the sound of gunfire erupted outside. Clay and his companions had arrived, launching a full-scale attack on the hospital. Meanwhile, at the TV station, Ellis confronted news anchor Alonso, demanding to know what really happened. He accused Alonso of being responsible for the disaster, stating that his research confirmed the virus originated from this station. At first, Alonso denied everything, pretending he was just another survivor who had somehow managed to stay alive. But Ellis saw through his lies. Everyone else in the station was dead, and Alonso was the only one left standing. That meant he was behind it all. Realizing he had no way out, Alonso finally decided to tell the truth. He explained that he had worked as a news anchor for over 20 years, delivering updates on everything happening in the world. He was good at his job, but over time, he began to notice a disturbing pattern. The population was growing rapidly, and with it, the Earth's ecosystems were collapsing. He had reported on the melting ice caps, climate change, and natural disasters, warning people again and again about the consequences of overpopulation. But no one listened. Alonso continued his confession, explaining how he had watched human greed and carelessness destroy the planet. People built massive factories, not caring that they polluted the air just to make more money. Governments ignored the problem, doing nothing to stop the damage. Whenever an honest minister spoke out against big corporations, wealthy businessmen would simply silence them with bribes. Alonso tried to warn the public. For years, he reported on climate change, pollution, and the destruction of ecosystems. But no one listened. Ordinary people were too busy with their personal lives, and world leaders only cared about profit and power. Over time, Alonso realized a terrifying truth. If humans continued like this, they would eventually destroy themselves. But in doing so, they wouldn't just die off. They would take the entire planet down with them. The Earth, which had once flourished with life, would be irreversibly ruined. That's when Alonso made a horrifying decision. If human civilization refused to change, then he would force change upon them. One day, a scientist friend confided in him about a deadly discovery. His lab had created a virus that could shut down the human brain the moment a person fell asleep. Whoever slept would die. The scientist had developed the virus in a controlled setting, but Alonso saw an opportunity. What if this virus was released on a global scale? He believed that by wiping out most of humanity, he could give Earth a second chance. Animals, forests, oceans, all of nature would finally recover without humans destroying them for profit. Determined to make this happen, Alonso persuaded his scientist friend to modify the virus so that it would spread rapidly, ensuring it would infect the entire world in a matter of days. But Alonso couldn't take any risks. Once the virus was ready, he killed his friend to make sure no one else knew the truth. Then 4 days ago, he activated his plan. Using the broadcasting signals from his TV station, he spread the virus globally. By the time night fell, it was already too late. Millions of people went to sleep, never to wake up again. And that was how the world fell apart overnight. Not by accident, not by natural disaster, but by one man's decision to save the Earth by wiping out its people. Alonso shocked everyone by revealing a terrifying truth. The virus was still being actively broadcast from his TV station to satellites, which continued to spread it across the world. Ellis and his team were stunned. This meant the virus had never stopped spreading. It was still infecting people, ensuring that whoever fell asleep would die. Suddenly, everything made sense to Ellis. He had noticed a delay in the time of death across different towns. People in each location were dying 2 minutes later than the ones before them. Now he understood why. The virus took time to travel through the broadcast signals, spreading town by town, city by city. By now, most of humanity was already gone. But if they could shut down the broadcast, at least the remaining survivors would have a chance to stay alive and rebuild the world. Just as Ellis was processing all of this, Alonso suddenly made his move. He ran out of the room and locked Ellis and his team inside. From outside, Alonso shouted at them, declaring that they couldn't stop his plan. According to him, his mission wouldn't be complete until every last human was dead. He believed that people could only survive without sleep for about 6 days, meaning that in just 2 more days, the last survivors would also die, and the Earth would finally be free of humans forever. Inside the locked room, Ellis and his team saw Alonso through the glass window. He was keeping himself awake by chain-smoking cigarettes. Realizing that time was running out, they quickly came up with a plan. They had to escape the room and stop the broadcast before it was too late. Ellis deliberately distracted Alonso with conversation, keeping him talking while 2 of his teammates, Beth and her husband, climbed through a ventilation shaft in the ceiling. Once they made it out, the vent closed behind them, leaving Ellis and the rest still trapped. But as soon as Beth's husband attempted to attack Alonso, Alonso reacted instantly, shooting him dead without hesitation. Beth watched in horror as her husband collapsed, realizing the extent of Alonso's determination. He was willing to kill anyone who stood in his way. Inside the locked room, Ellis and the remaining team members regrouped. They needed a new plan, so they decided that the only way to escape and stop the broadcast was to shut off the power to the entire station. If they killed the power, the doors would unlock, giving them one last chance to stop Alonso and end the virus before it was too late. As Alonso stood outside, he continued to justify his actions, insisting that even if what he did was wrong for humanity, it was the best thing for the planet. But as he spoke, the lights around him started flickering. Alonso immediately realized what was happening. Beth was restarting the system to override his control. Panicked, he rushed to his news booth to deliver one final message. Going live on air, he declared that everything he had done was for the sake of saving Earth. He believed that humanity's destruction was was the only way to heal the planet. But before he could say more, Beth stormed into the booth and shot him on live television. Alonso, the man responsible for wiping out most of humanity, collapsed, his reign of terror finally ending. For Beth, it wasn't just about revenge for the world, it was personal. Alonso had killed her husband, and she wasn't going to let him continue his madness any longer. With Alonso dead, she quickly freed Ellis and the others, and together they shut down the broadcast for good. Within a few hours, the virus would stop spreading, and all the remaining survivors would be safe. Not only that, but Ellis and his team also destroyed all traces of the virus in the station, ensuring it could never be used again. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Jake, Sam, and Dr. Allie were trying to escape as Clay and his group launched their attack on Dr. Abraham's facility. As they moved through the chaos, they crossed paths with Clay, but to their surprise, he didn't stop them. Clay already knew that Dr. Abraham had probably taken them as prisoners, so he let them go without saying a word. Just then, Dr. Abraham himself appeared. Facing Clay, Abraham tried to justify his experiments, claiming that he was doing what was necessary for the greater good. According to him, people were already dying, and his experiments weren't murder, but sacrifice for the future. At first, Clay hesitated, lowering his gun slightly as he listened to Abraham's words, but Abraham saw his chance. Before Clay could react, the doctor lunged forward and injected him with a powerful sedative, the same drug he had prepared for Sam. As Clay collapsed, Abraham stood over him, shouting that since he couldn't experiment on Sam, he would now use Clay's brain instead. As Jake, Dr. Allie, and Sam were about to leave, Lex suddenly appeared, blocking their way. Determined to stop them, Lex begged Allie to stay, but Dr. Allie stood firm. She had made her decision and told Lex to move aside. Realizing that Allie would never listen to her again, Lex pulled out a gun, taking them hostage at gunpoint, but Jake quickly reacted. Coming up from behind, he snatched the gun from Lex's hands. They left her behind, getting into their car and speeding away, leaving the hospital and its dark secrets forever. Meanwhile, Ellis was broadcasting a message over the radio. He informed Jake and Allie that the virus was completely shut down and the world was finally safe again. Now, with most of humanity wiped out, those who were still alive could start fresh, a new life on a new Earth. This time, they would do things differently. They all agreed to respect the planet and never repeat the mistakes of the past. Alonso's ideas weren't entirely wrong. Human greed had damaged the Earth, but now those left behind had a second chance. With that, Jake, Dr. Allie, and Sam drove toward Ellis and the others, ready to rebuild their future together. As for Dr. Abraham, with the virus no longer active, his horrific experiments had become meaningless. All those lives he sacrificed were wasted, and his serum was useless now. His vision of controlling sleep to save the world had collapsed. Jake had changed. No longer the lost, addicted man he once was, he had found a new purpose. From now on, he would treat Sam as his own younger brother, making up for the mistakes he made with his sister Megan. He had left his past behind forever. And with that, the series comes to a happy end. Tell us what you thought of the entire series in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more exciting stories. Thank you for watching.